How does a civilization that once stretched from the scorching sands of the Sahara to the misty hells of Britain suddenly collapses into darkness? The Roman Empire, at its zenith, 117 AD, under Emperor Trajan, wasn't just vast, it was the epitome of human achievement. Yet, after over 8 centuries of unparalleled influence, this monumental empire began to crumble. What forces could bring such a colossal power to its knees and plunge Europe into the Dark Ages? Under Trajan, Rome enjoyed not only territorial expansion, but also a period of relative peace and prosperity known as the Pax Romana, or Roman peace. This era was characterized by stability, flourishing trade, and cultural achievements. However, the death of Trajan marked the beginning of subtle shifts within the empire's fabric, as successors like Hadrian and Marcus Aurelius continued to maintain stability, but challenges loomed on the horizon. The reign of Commandos, starting in 177 AD, is often pinpointed as a significant turning point in Rome's fortunes. Commandos, the son of Marcus Aurelius, lacked the virtues and competencies of his predecessors. His role was marred by extravagance, erratic behavior, and discontent from the administrative responsibilities of an emperor. He indulged in gladiatorial combats, not as a spectator, but as a participant, often staging victories against handicapped opponents to boost his image. His mismanagement and neglect of imperial duties led to political instability and discontent among the patricians, the Roman elite. The assassination of Commandos in 192 AD plunged Rome into further chaos, initiating the Year of the Five Emperors. This period was characterized by rapid successions and violent power struggles, undermining the authority of the imperial office. Civil wars became more frequent, eroding the central power that had linked the vast territories together. The 3rd century brought about one of the most turbulent times in Roman history, known as the Crisis of the 3rd century, 235 to 284 AD. The empire faced several internal and external pressures. Economically, the empire was strained by hyperinflation, heavy taxation, and a reliance on slave labor, which was becoming unsustainable due to the cessation of territorial expansion and thus fewer prisoners of war. Politically, there was a rapid turnover of emperors, many of whom were military leaders, proclaimed by their troops. This period saw around 26 claimants to the imperial throne, most of whom met violent ends. The frequent changes in leadership destabilized administrative functions and weakened the state's ability to respond effectively to crisis. Externally, the empire faced constant threats from Germanic tribes along the Rhine and Danube frontiers, as well as the rising power of the Sassanid Persian Empire in the east. The borders were increasingly difficult to defend, and incursions became more frequent and devastating. In response to these challenges, Emperor Diocletian rose to power in 284 AD, initiating significant reforms aimed at stabilizing the empire. Recognizing the administrative difficulties of governing such a vast territory, he divided the empire into the Eastern and Western Roman empires, each with its own emperor and subordinate co-emperor in a system known as the Tetrarchy. This division was intended to ensure more efficient governance and quicker responses to threats. Diocletian also attempted economic reforms, including price controls to curb inflation and tax reforms to stabilize revenues. Additionally, he intensified the persecution of Christians, who he saw as a threat to traditional Roman religious and social order. The rise of Constantine the Great marked another pivotal moment, ascending to power after a series of civil wars. Constantine embraced Christianity, a religion that had been persecuted but was rapidly gaining followers. According to historical accounts, he experienced a vision before the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 1312 AD, seen a cross in the sky along with the words, "In this sign you will conquer." Interpreting this as divine support, he adopted the Christian symbol and emerged victorious. In 313 AD, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, granting religious tolerance throughout the empire and effectively ending the persecution of Christians. He later moved the capital from Rome to Byzantine, renaming it as Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. This shift not only relocated the political center, but also signified a move towards a Christianized and increasingly Greek-speaking Eastern Empire. Despite these reforms, the Western Roman Empire continued to weaken. The increasing pressures from various Germanic tribes, collectively referred to as barbarians by the Romans, intensified. Groups such as Visigoths, Ostrogoths, Vandals, and others were being pushed westward by the advance of the Huns from Central Asia. In 376 AD, a significant event occurred when the Visigoths, fleeing the Huns, sought refuge within the Roman Empire's borders. The Romans permitted them to settle but exploited and mistreated them, leading to the Gothic War, 376 to 382 AD. The conflict culminated in the Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD, where the Eastern Roman Emperor Valens was killed, and the Roman army suffered a crushing defeat. The sacking of Rome by the Visigothic king Alaric in 410 AD was a symbolic blow to the empire's prestige. Rome, the Eternal City, had not fallen to an enemy in over 800 years. The event sent shockwaves throughout the Roman world and was seen by many as a harbinger of the empire's impending doom. Further incursions continued, with the Vandals crossing into North Africa and establishing a kingdom that threatened Rome's grain supply. The Huns, under Attila, invaded Gaul and Italy, but were eventually repelled. However, the culminative effect of these invasions strained the empire's resources and undermined its ability to recover. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire officially came to an end when the Germanic chieftain Odoacer deposed the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus. Rather than assuming the imperial title, Odoacer declared himself king of Italy, sending the imperial insignia to Constantinople and acknowledging the Eastern emperor's nominal supremacy. This act is traditionally marked by historians as the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The collapse of centralized Roman authority led to a period often referred to as the Dark Ages, approximately 5th to 10th centuries AD. This era was characterized by the fragmentation of territories into various barbarian kingdoms. The intricate administrative systems, infrastructure, and cultural unity fostered by Rome deteriorated. Trade networks that had connected distant parts of the empire disintegrated. Without the Roman roads and protection from Roman legions, travel became perilous. Local economies became increasingly self-sufficient, and barter often replaced monetary transactions due to the scarcity of coined money. Education and literacy rates declined sharply. The loss of a central educational system meant that knowledge was preserved mainly within monastic communities. The vast majority of the population was illiterate, and much of the classical knowledge was lost or inaccessible. Urban centers, which had been hubs of Roman cultural and economic life, declined as people moved to rural areas for safety and sustenance. The grandeur of Roman architecture fell into disrepair, and in some cases, buildings were scavenged for materials. Amidst the chaos, the Christian Church emerged as a unifying institution. With the decline of secular authority, the Church filled the power vacuum, providing spiritual guidance, education, and social services. Monasteries became centers of learning, preserving classical texts through painstaking manuscript copying. The Church also played a significant role in the conversion of barbarian tribes. Missionaries such as St. Patrick in Ireland and St. Augustine in England worked to spread Christianity throughout Europe. This gradual Christianization helped to forge a common religious identity and among diverse peoples. However, the Church's influence was not entirely benevolent. It often enforced strict doctrinal conformity, suppressing heretical beliefs and pagan practices. The intertwining of church and emergent secular powers sometimes led to corruption and power struggles. While the Western Empire fell, the Eastern Roman Empire, known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to thrive. Centered in Constantinople, it preserved Roman law, culture, and Christian traditions, albeit with a strong Greek influence. Emperor Justinian I, who ruled from 527 to 565 AD, embarked on an ambitious project to restore the Roman Empire's former glory. His military campaigns, led by the capable General Belisarius, reconquered North Africa from the Vandals and Italy from the Ostrogoths. Justinian also commissioned the Corpus Juris Civilis, or Body of Civil Law, a comprehensive codification of Roman law that would influence legal systems for centuries. His architectural achievements included the construction of the Hagia Sophia, an architectural marvel of the time. However, Justinian's efforts strained the empire's resources. The protracted wars in Italy devastated the region, and the outbreak of the plague of Justinian in 541 AD decimated the population. The plague, believed to be a form of bubonic plague, killed an estimated 25 to 50 million people, severely weakening the Byzantine Empire. In the early 7th century, a new force emerged from the Arabian Peninsula. Islam, founded by the Prophet Muhammad, rapidly expanded beyond Arabia. By the mid-7th century, Muslim armies had conquered the Sassanid Persian Empire and taken large portions of the Byzantine Empire's territories, including Syria, Egypt, and North Africa. The Umayyad Caliphate, established in 661 AD, stretched from the Iberian Peninsula in the west to the Indus River in the east. The Islamic Golden Age saw remarkable advancements in science, mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and the arts. Scholars translated and built upon the works of the Greeks, Persians, and Indians, preserving knowledge that might have otherwise been lost. Islamic Spain, known as the Al-Andalus, became a center of learning and cultural exchange. Cities like Cordoba boasted libraries, universities, and the architectural wonders. The interaction between Muslim, Christian, and Jewish scholars in this region would later contribute to the European Renaissance. The Western Europe, the Frankish kingdom, emerged as a dominant power. The Merovingian dynasty gave the way to the Carolingians, with Charles Martel halting the advance of Muslim armies at the Battle of Tours. In 732 AD, his grandson Charlemagne, Charles the Great, ascended to the throne in 768 AD and embarked on a mission to unite and Christianize Europe. Charlemagne's conquest expanded his realm to include much of Western and Central Europe. On Christmas Day in 800 AD, Pope Leo III crowned as Emperor of the Romans, symbolically reviving the Western Roman Empire. This act also signified the growing alliance between the Frankish state and the Roman Catholic Church. Under Charlemagne, the Carolingian Renaissance blossomed. He established schools, promoted literacy, and encouraged arts. Monasteries became centers of learning, and the standardized script known as Carolingian Minuscule improved the legibility of manuscripts. Despite these achievements, Charlemagne's empire lacked a strong administrative structure. Following his death in 814 AD, the empire was divided among his grandsons under the Treaty of Verdun in 843 AD, leading to the fragmentation of authority and renewed internal conflicts. The 9th and 10th centuries saw Europe besieged by external threats from multiple directions. The Vikings, seafaring warriors from Scandinavia, conducted raids along the coasts and rivers of Europe. Their advanced shipbuilding techniques allowed them to navigate both open seas and shallow rivers, enabling surprise attacks deep inland. The Vikings established settlements in the British Isles, Iceland, Greenland, and even reached North America, as evidenced by archaeological findings at Lonesome Meadows in Newfoundland. They also founded the Duchy of Normandy in France and became rulers in parts of England and Ireland. From the east, the Magyars, nomadic horsemen from the Eurasian steppes, invaded Central Europe, The raids reached as far as France and Italy until they were defeated at the Battle of Lechfeld in 955 AD by Otto I of Germany. The Saracens, Muslim pirates from North Africa and Spain, attacked Mediterranean coastal regions, capturing slaves and plundering wealth. These incursions further destabilized Europe and hindered economic and cultural development. Despite the turmoil, by the end of the 10th century, signs of recovery began to appear. The feudal system, while often oppressive, provided a new social and economic structure that offered some stability. Lords offered protection to their vassals in exchange for service, creating a hierarchical society bound by mutual obligations. The Christian church continued to play a central role in unifying Europe. The monastic reforms at Cluny in the 10th century emphasized spiritual renewal and independence from secular rulers, strengthening the church's moral authority. Agricultural innovations such as the heavy plow and the three-field system increased food production, supporting population growth, and the revival of the trade led to the growth of towns and a burgeoning merchant class. The crowning of Otto I as Holy Roman Emperor in 962 AD symbolized the continuation of the imperial ideal in the West. His reign marked the beginning of the Ottonian Renaissance, a period of cultural and artistic revival in Germany. The Roman Empire's fall didn't signify the end of its influence. Roman law, culture, language, and infrastructure left an indelible mark on Europe. Latin remained the language of scholarship and administration for centuries. Roman roads, aqueducts, and architectural techniques continued to be used and studied. The Byzantine Empire preserved and transmitted classical knowledge, influencing the Islamic world and eventually Western Europe. The interaction between these civilizations during the Crusades and through trade routes facilitated the flow of ideas that would ignite the Renaissance. The so-called Dark Ages were not a period of complete stagnation but a time of transformation. New political entities emerged, and the blending of Roman, Christian, and Germanic traditions laid the foundations for modern European nations. The fall of the Roman Empire and the ensuing Dark Ages were pivotal in shaping the course of European history. The decline was not the result of a single event, but a culmination of internal weaknesses and external pressures. The fragmentation that followed led to hardship, but also to the development of new social structures and cultural identities.
The resilience of the people, the unifying force of Christianity, and the gradual re-establishment of stability set the stage for the eventual flourishing of European civilization. By the 11th century, Europe was poised to enter a new era of growth, exploration, and intellectual achievement, building upon both the remnants of Rome and the innovations born out of necessity during the challenging centuries of the Dark Ages.